This podcast is a TOFOP production.
Head to tofop.com for more.
The following episode of TOFOP is rated MA for mature audiences. It may contain sexual references, time travel references, allegations of bin misconduct, and mild coarse language. TOFOP advises that this episode is not suitable for anyone under the age of 15 or anyone who thinks a comedy conversation between two old mates sounds like a terrible idea for a show. Minors must be accompanied by a parent or guardian. This is John Deek speaking.
Everyone relax. This is TOFOP. I'm Charlie Clausen.
I'm Will Anderson. Hello and thank you for watching. I think we've cracked it.
We have.
I think we have cracked the perfect start to the show. So basically what used to happen is that Podcast Mike would name the episode of TOFOP that it was and then count us down. 3, 2, 1. Sometimes 3, 2, 1, go. Sometimes 3, 2, 1, now. Sometimes...
Begin, was it once? He's
3, 2,
commence
1,
or something like
begin,
that?
Commence.
Proceed.
Get on with it. Fucking just do whatever fucking nonsense you're going to do. Get on with it so I can get on with my life. We have this new technology that we're recording these on. If you are not watching this, you can watch this. You can go to our Patreon, sign up there and get full videos of us doing the show. And you'll get to see in the background today my old house. And it looks very beautiful.
It's gorgeous.
In the background. Yeah, if you took a closer look, you'd see how that is a real facade. It's just an absolute fucking nightmare out the back there.
It's just funnel web city.
It's basic. Well, like no one's really been in this house for 4 years in a serious way. Like, you know, a few friends and whatever, just, you know, sleeping on the couch sort of thing, but no one who's been looking after the house. And as people might be aware, there's been some weather. And when I say weather, I mean rain, constant fucking rain for about 2 years. So, yeah, it's fair to say that, like, if I walked out the back there right now, I would probably not be able to commence, proceed, start, go with the rest of the podcast, even if Podcast Mike demanded it. But we have this fancy countdown now, and it counts down from 6. Don't know why 6. That seems like an unusual number to... But on the screen before it starts recording, you get the countdown 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And we missed Podcast Mike because Podcast Mike used to do it manually back in the day. It was like it gave us a little buzz to start the show.
Yeah.
And so we were starting the show and you had a bit of an old man grumble about the fact that you missed Podcast Mike.
Yeah, because he would always remind us of the episode number as well, and there'd always be some kind of joke about, oh, geez, look, we've been doing this a long time or whatever. And you're right, it would be a way of us engaging with Mike, generally about what he was wearing. But then AI's taken over. I mean, this technology we're using has made the show much easier to record, much better quality, but we've lost that kind of personal connection. In fact, well, maybe the mistakes are what made us human after all.
So, well, what we decided to do today is like have a little hybrid Podcast Mike countdown because we realized that there was no reason that Podcast Mike couldn't still be doing the countdown over the top of the computer countdown. In fact, it might actually add to the experience because not only will we get the old-fashioned Podcast Mike 3, 2, 1, but we would actually get to see the numbers 3, 2, 1 appear on screen as Podcast Mike said 3, 2, 1. Now, here's the thing. Podcast Mike normally says this is TOFOP episode, you know, whatever it happens to be, in 3, 2, 1. Now, first go, and this is what impressed me the most. First go, he immediately just dived in, like he let the 6 come up, is what I remember.
I was worried then.
I was like, yeah, he's like, it's not the greatest. You haven't gone straight out of the blocks. And he started he didn't panic. Didn't panic out of the block. You know, really was clear about the name of the show and the episode of the show. And then realized he was a Scott Morrison, this is not a race, I'm out behind. Yeah. And that 3 came up on the screen and he just jumped to that 3, then eased us through the 2 and the 1 into the show. And I have never felt better about doing the show that I do right now.
He had to cram the number of the show and the title of the show and 3 into the same sentence. So it's TOFOP 379 3, 2, 1. And it was like, oh, I like what you
That was
did there.
good, wasn't it?
Started with a rush and then finished very, very smoothly.
He really nailed the landing. It was some Olympic gymnast style shit.
I'm back home in the Northern Rivers after being in WA for a week. And things have not been going smoothly since I've been back. First of all, I think it's been raining while I've been gone. Got home, there was water in my downstairs living room again. It's like, holy fuck. I mean, I think we've been talking about maybe putting a pool in this house, and I think we're getting one. Whether we like it or not, we're getting an internal pool inside the house in our downstairs living room.
You don't need a pool. You just need to dig a hole.
Yeah.
The rest will take care of itself.
Well, that's it. I just need to get a jackhammer and jackhammer through the concrete slab in my living room downstairs, and it will fill with water. So that was great. So I did my second big demold in 2 weeks this week. Just had to drag everything out and just demold. That was something that they don't really put on the brochures about Byron Bay, is it? Like when they're doing all the big sell about Byron Bay, they never mention the fact that your house and your home will be infested with mold at least half a dozen times in the space of a year.
Well, ordinarily that is true regardless, because there is a wet season up there and it is very tropical for like normally about three or even maybe 4 months. But apparently it's going to be 3 or 4 years. So the good news is like the skills you're developing now in being able to remove mold will serve you well in the immediate and far future.
Yeah.
Because it turns out that like 90% of what you're going to be doing with your time is removing mold from things.
100%. So there was some mold on the downstairs lounge. We've got this big lounge downstairs. It's a real bugger to kind of get the cushions out and take the covers off. And I think it's goose down. So the feathers go everywhere. And so you're doing all this kind of stuff. We bought it secondhand, all right, before you bloody animal lovers jump on my back. I didn't know it was goose down. It was only after I unzipped the thing. It was the secondhand. It was a Gumtree purchase.
It was part of the Top Gun collection, wasn't it? You got the Maverick pillows and the goose down.
That's exactly right. So I took all the cushions out because we've had sunshine the last 3 days. It's amazing what a difference it makes. Like I love where we live and I'm really taken to this kind of semi-rural lifestyle. But almost 6 months of rain and clouds can really change your opinion of a place. Like it really does. And I don't think I get seasonal depression, but as someone who was born and raised in Melbourne, it wasn't until I got out of Melbourne that I realized how much I hate like grey clouds and cold weather. Like it wasn't until I got far enough away from it. I'm like, oh no, I'm a sunshine person. I like it when it's like blue skies. I like the beach. I like being outdoorsy. I like wearing like singlets and shorts most of the year. But it hasn't been like that this year until like the last 3 days. So I'm like, all right, get everything out in the sun. So got everything out in the sun, and it's a big couch. So there's like 4 big seated cushions, and then about 100 other kind of like back cushions and additional cushions. So I had to find space all around our front yard to get them all in the sun. Anyway, just before Jim and I went to WA, we bought a second car. Again, secondhand. It's probably made out of like rhino tusks. I'm not sure. Like, so again, you animal activists, get off our back.
I know that all the seats are filled with goose down. That was the one thing you demanded. You're like, right. I fucking hate geese.
Yeah.
That's like, as long as this car, I love the environment, but there's just one aspect of the environment I hate, and it is fucking geese. Yeah. What have they ever done? You know what? What is good for the goose is good for the gander. And what is good for both of them is immediate death and stuffing in things that I sit on.
I specifically requested a car where the headlights were made from the eyeballs of whales. So it's very off-putting when you see me driving down the street because their eyelids are still attached. Do whales have eyelids? I don't even know. They're mammals. Do mammals have eyelids? Who knows?
It is weird that you got a second-hand car, but it also has a foie gras.
Well, it's a Tedurkin. There's a second smaller car inside it. Anyway, so we bought this car because we just need, when you got a kid and you live semi-rural, you just need a second car. Kid needs a car, just in case of emergencies and stuff. So we found this car, got it checked out, all running smooth, no problems. Mechanic loved it. Said, of all the cars I've looked at, this is a really good one. So anyway, got the cushions out in the sun, and then we have to do a trip, into town to get some stuff. And
in the mechanic loved it. Like I understand the whole point of that, right? The mechanic loved it. He's a mechanic that we trust, and he's given it a good recommendation.
Yeah.
But you really do have to find a mechanic you trust in that situation, because if the car is really good, it's not really that much use to your mechanic.
Yeah.
You need to find a mechanic who's already really busy.
Yeah,
He
yeah.
does not need new work. He does not need your shitty old car clogging up his garage. He absolutely just wants to help you, because if you go to a mechanic, he's got an empty garage, then he's not going to pick the best car for you.
Yeah. Well, look, maybe this mechanic knew more than he was letting on. Because we've had the car, I think we bought it just before WA, and we took it and got it registered and stuff. But then we haven't really driven it until this week when we got back. So yesterday we go out into town, we do a big shop, and we had plans to then, because the sun's out, let's take our to the beach. We packed a basket, took an umbrella. It was going to be great. But as I'm driving out of town, I'm like, it feels like the car is pulling to the left, and then I start hearing that kind of like thugga thugga thugga, and I'm like when you get a flat. So I pull over, check the car, can't see any obvious. I don't know anything about cars. Just let's state this. I do what anyone who knows nothing about cars. I circled the car. I kicked the tires a few times.
Just had a look. Just had a look around.
Just had a
see
look.
if there was anything obvious.
Yeah.
Like anything stuck in it or whatever.
I even looked under the car to see if there was a stick stuck in the wheel, just to get your BMX when you're a kid. Because I'm like,
Mate, I'd recently had my brakes were squealing, and I rang up the people. I thought, I'm gonna have to get my fucking car towed, like the whole thing. And because it's your brakes, you don't want to fuck around. And they're like, oh yeah, sometimes it might just get a rock in it and it'll sound like a squealing. Check if there's a rock in it. And I looked in it and there was definitely a rock in it.
Really?
I was like, wow, that saved myself a lot of time and expense.
Well, here's the thing about not knowing anything about cars is I am quite I'm what would I say? I am competent handyman. I can look at, so for instance, yesterday, the cistern in the bathroom wasn't working properly. It just was not taking water from the tap into the cistern. And I was able to look at that, take the cistern apart, work out what was going on with the pump, fix it, go into Bunnings, get the replacement part and fix it. So,
That's you, Charlie. You see a
toilet level.
You see a classic case of twisted cistern and say, we're not going to take it.
Yeah, that's
and
right.
You get on the job.
So I can fix toilets. That's my, but cars, I don't know anything about cars.
They're
and it's
different.
And it's also, but yeah, I know.
I've always stood by is that cars and toilets are very different. And if anybody does not know the difference between the two, you are not welcome to use my car. But still use my toilet.
My brother is very good at cars. He's, he's tried to explain it to me many times. He's come and look at cars with me, and he's like, "Oh no, they're really simple to understand because they're just, one thing connects to the other. Everything has its function. Once you know what it was, they're not really difficult to work out. Okay, is it the timing belt or is it the carburetor? Anyway, it always just makes no sense to me. So, circle this car, can't see anything obvious. Get back in, and then I pull over again, and now I see wispy smoke coming from under the bonnet. So I'm like, God damn it. So we are on one of those roads near us where it's farmland essentially. So I pull into a driveway and get out, and we're in the middle of nowhere, and not middle of nowhere, but nowhere walking distance. Yeah. And so the sun's going down. I said to Jem, why don't you just call an Uber? I'll take the babysitter out, call an Uber. I'll call the mechanic who did the inspection and see, if he's around. So get the mechanic on the line.
He's around. He's like, I've been waiting for this.
He's lurking in the bushes. I turned around. He was suddenly standing behind me.
He knew exactly how far you could drive on the shit box that it was.
So Jem takes off with Iona, and while I'm waiting for the mechanic, the owners of the house, they just happen to coincidentally arrive home at the same time. And so the dude gets out, and they're very friendly. And I said to him, "Do you know anything about cars?" He said, "Yeah, I know a little bit. I used to actually have one of these cars." And so he proceeds to just poke around under the bonnet, and I don't know what he was saying, but he seemed to think there was nothing wrong with the car from what he could see. I explained what the problem was, and he said, "Did you lose power?" And I said, "No, I didn't feel like I was losing power. It just felt like..."
"Well, just fucking keep driving, you wuss shit."
Yeah. And so then he started asking me questions that this is when I start to feel really not emasculated.
When they start asking you questions that you like.
It's a car that we only just bought.
is on or off, and you're
Yes.
like, I don't even know what the thing you're referring to is.
I had to call the previous owner to find out how to open the fucking bonnet because I couldn't find the release for it. Turns out in this particular brand of car, it's an American car. It's on the passenger side, which makes no fucking sense to me at all.
They should always put them in different places. That's the one thing I've said about cars.
So
you can make everything as different as possible.
But this guy is saying to me, I bet this is the turbo, right? And I'm like, I don't know, mate. Like, A, we just bought it, and B, even if it was, I wouldn't even know what turbo was, and I don't even.
Mate, it's the fucking turbo. Look at this goose down-filled fucking seat, mate. You don't get that in the standard. Only the turbo.
I don't even know what turbo does. Like, isn't turbo? I think of Knight Rider. When I think of turbo, I think it makes your car go extra fast, and you can jump ramps hidden behind bushes, right?
It's like basically what they do in Fast and the Furious.
Is it though?
That's turbo.
But why then why don't they call it turbo?
Where
They put nitrous oxide in the engine.
Yeah. But that's just an adult Fast and Furious version of turbo.
Podcast Mike, while we're talking, can you look up if NOS from Fast and the Furious is different to turbo? Like, I don't know if you know anything about cars and you can answer it straight away, but if not,
I think
look it up.
they're different. I'm just saying that's
it does the same
version.
thing.
I'm saying in the olden days, turbo was like that turbo technology did not exist that Kit was using. It was like a fictional technology.
The turbo boost. I think turbo. Okay, Mike's got an answer for us.
Yeah.
I'm going to read straight off an article from Quora. So here's what the answer is.
So
turbo,
it's made up, in other words. It's not real.
I was going to say, an article is very generous.
This is from Graham Cox, who is a car enthusiast. And it says,
well, I'm sorry.
Turbo raises the...
I know Graham Cars, who's a Cox enthusiast.
Turbo raises the pressure of the inlet manifold, so forcing more fuel / air into an engine.
I'm bored already.
Okay.
This is dumb.
Nitrous is a gas.
Okay, so boo, shut up. You're like the guy who looked at my car. Get out of here. You did nothing. I'm sorry, Mike. That was really mean. So guy...
That wasn't mean. That's what our brains both do when people start giving us helpful information. Like, that is literally... Mike was trying to provide us with the answers, and our brains are like, no, thank you. They go on the defense. They go on the attack. We have like an immune system reaction to like sensible information entering our brains that like all the nonsense that's inside our skull immediately needs to fight it off.
So a guy who owns the house, he's like, all right, I'll leave you to it. Knock on the door if you need anything. And then the mechanic arrives. And so he gets out. And so I explain the problem, and he does his little engine check with his little pen light, gets under the car. And he's like, well, it's nothing. I thought maybe it could be like a wire's burnt out or something. He's gone, let's go for a drive. Yeah. And I had that moment, like that Warner Brothers cartoon with the frog. Hello, my honey. Hello, my baby. And then like you turn your back and it's just a frog or whatever. So I get in the car and it's just running perfectly. And the mechanic is like, so what? And then I start like, you're going, fuck, did I imagine it? Is it just because it's a new car, I'm not used to it? And then like the bitumen changed and suddenly like I'm on rougher bitumen. And then did I imagine that the wheel was tugging to one side? And so we drove for about 5 minutes. I literally, pulled out onto the freeway so I could get up to speed and and the mechanic is doing his best not to judge me who doesn't know the difference between turbo and NOS, and I'm like, I'm trying, and I can't even describe the sound in a way, any other way that doesn't sound idiotic. I'm like, it was a thudda, thudda, thudda. Like I'm trying to perfectly encapsulate the specific sound. And then, so we stop again. He gets out, he looks, he's like, I can't see anything. And we get in and he's gone, okay, just when we turn this corner, just like feather the brakes. So I start feathering the brakes and he's like, oh, okay. He's gone, now accelerate. And I start accelerating. And then you hear this thudda, 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 thudda. And he's like, okay. And he's gone, the car's pulling to the left, isn't it? And I said, yes. And he's gone, now go to the right. Is it going to the right? I'm like, no, it's just, and he's like, okay. So we pull over. We get out. He jacks up the car. And he
jacking up something else with the way that he's diagnosed that.
Mate, it was
so impressive.
It was so impressive.
Hey,
he was.
Is it pulling a little to the left right now? The minute he said that, and it was, I would have been like, oh my god, you're like a car whisperer.
Yeah, that's right. He's like, just lower the dipstick, get it nice and oily, get ready to shoot some fuel injected. So he jacks the car up. So the two front wheels are off the ground, and he goes over to my side, the driver's side, and he just like he said, I put it in neutral, he just starts spinning the wheel. He's like, okay. And then he goes over to the passenger wheel and he starts trying to turn it, but it won't move. And he's like, okay, this is what the problem is. He's gone, your brake caliper, the piston is faulty, so it's engaged. So you've been driving with like the left front wheel brake engaged. That's why it's because the car's fighting against that.
The brakes on.
The brakes on, it's tugging to one side. And I'm like, okay, fucking brilliant. And I'm like, so you can fix it, right? And he's like, oh no, that's not not an easy fix. You've got to get
what I do, mate. I just diagnose shit. I just tell you what's wrong. I can do nothing about it. My garage is full.
And I'm like, so this is nothing that you noticed when you did the mechanical inspection last week? And he's like, no, it was running smoothly. And I'm like, oh, okay, oh, good, mate. good. And he's like, it's probably because because we've been driving it all day. It gets worse. The more you hit the brake, the more applied the brake becomes. So, him doing a little half-hour inspection, it wasn't going to be noticeable. But me fucking driving around all day and feathering the brake wheel engaged this fucking caliper, and then it wouldn't release. The piston was broken.
Okay, so feathering the brake, engaging the caliper, and breaking the piston do sound very much like we're in some sort of dom dungeon at this point. It's like, it's real.
That's my safety word, feather the brake. I think your piston's too far engaged. I need you to release the calipers. Feather the brake.
Okay, so does that mean you can only drive at short distances or you can't drive it at all?
Correct. So he said, my recommendation is you need to go. He said, you need to go. He's gone, who's your mechanic? I'm like, you are. And he's like, no.
You are, mate. Absolutely. He's like, I've never met you before. What are you talking about?
He's like, no, you need like a brake specialist. And I said, well, I don't have one. He said, okay, well, there are these great guys, just in Ballina, if you can get to there. And I said, so can I drive it there? And he's gone, well, no. He's gone, if I was you, I would get it towed. That would be the safest. You don't want to, do more damage to the car. And it's like, fucking hell. Like we only got it on Friday. Then we went to WA. I got it insured and everything, but I didn't get on NRMA. So I'm not getting a free tow or anything like that. I'd have to pay for a tow truck. So I was like, God damn it. And then he said, or if you think you can drive all the way there without using your brakes, then yeah, you could probably do it. And I'm like, oh, all right, that's very useful. Thanks very much. And so he left. And so the sun's gone down now. I'm still like.
If you think you could drive the whole. I mean, okay. All right.
Okay.
Great.
So I'm sitting by the side of the road. And Jem's calling, wanting to know how everything's are. And so I give her the whole deal. I'm like, oh, God damn it.
The new car's great, honey. Everything's fine.
And so I'm sitting there with the tow truck number there. And I don't know why I get like this, but I'm like, I'm just annoyed that we've bought this car, already laid some money out for it. And then I'm going to have to pay an extra $400 whatever for a tow truck.
That is
And
annoying.
so then I'm like, Charlie, do you reckon you can make it to Ballina without using the brakes?
100%. It's why I feathered my brakes a little on my reaction, because I suddenly realized that's where this story was going.
So it was a 10-kilometer journey, about 11 minutes drive, including...
No, hang on. Is 11 minutes what it would ordinarily
11 minutes
take if you were
ordinarily.
using your
Oh,
brakes?
mate. Well, probably 5 minutes at the speed I was going. No, 10 minutes, 11 minutes according to, because I looked it up on Google Maps. It's 11 minutes. So it's basically 3 roads, an 80-kilometer road to the freeway, 110 from the freeway, off ramp of 60, and then 80 kilometers along, and then, a couple of roundabouts, and then that was the brake specialist. So
I'm imagining, like, I can imagine this in the area in which we live.
Yeah.
I can imagine, like, to get to
No
my
brakes.
house from town.
Yours would be difficult with no brakes because you could live up a winding mountain.
That would be problematic. And on the fact that there's no bridge anymore and the road fell away. Other than that, it'd be fine.
So I'm sitting in this because I forgot. So I did attempt to drive it. After the mechanic left, I was like, okay, I'm just going to try going with no brakes. Yeah. But I got in the car and it started really shuddering because obviously the brake was on. So I was like, fuck. So I had to pull into literally just a ditch on the side of the road with
as
cars.
In hole?
Yeah, a ditch as in, not Davey, but ditch as in hole. Yes, a real hole. So cars are flying by and I'm like, okay. I call the mechanic again and say, hey man, I'm thinking about the tow truck, but just about the brakes thing again. I said I just tried to drive it and it was like really shuddering. So I don't know I will be able to drive it even if I don't use brakes. And he said, oh, well, if you just let it cool down a bit, it'll naturally release. But then as soon as you start hitting the brakes again, that piston's going to engage. So just cool the engine down, wait like 20 minutes and then go
Just
for
need
it.
to have like a 20-minute nap, recharge.
Yeah. So I sat there for 20 minutes just watching this, and you know what people are like in the country, the way they drive, fucking quick. So, it's really, I'm negotiating, I'm going to get out of this ditch onto this road. Then there's about 150 meters of driving. Then I've got to merge or turn. It's like a T intersection. I've got to turn onto a T intersection to an 80-kilometer road. So if I'm going to do this with no brakes, I've got to get my timing absolutely right because there are cars whipping by at 80 kilometers an hour at this intersection. So when I leave the ditch, I've got to time it. I've got to wait till there's either no cars on the 80-kilometer road or they're far enough away that I reckon I can get up to speed, like fucking Marty McFly, get up to 88 miles an hour and take that corner without hitting the brakes and then merge, on at 80 kilometers an hour, right?
So was there any moment?
Oh, don't give me if there's a simple solution that I've ignored.
No.
Okay, good.
Dear God, no. No, I'm not even in a state to be able to think of a simple solution because I'm in such a state of panic about the story that you're telling me at the moment. So at this point, when you're waiting 20 minutes and realizing that you're going to have to Marty McFly it to get back out on the road,
yeah,
did it cross your mind not to do it?
Yeah. I think that was the majority of my waiting time was like, yes, should I, shouldn't I? And then I was like, in my head, I was like, look, if I do it and the car starts really shuddering again, oh, okay, I've given it my best shot, but I can't die wondering. And I want to save myself $400.
I am going to die.
And I'm going to die.
I cannot drive.
I'm not going to die wondering, but I am going to die.
I'm going to die
in a fiery high-speed crash.
He had no brakes.
And so to make the degree of difficulty even harder, so I'm on a country road, so there's not a lot of fucking street lights. I'm navigating by fucking moonlight and my high beams. So I gets to 20 minutes. I turn the engine over, no problem there. I just gently push out onto the road. There's no shuddering. I'm like, okay, so I give it a bit more juice. And I'm rolling towards the road. I'm keeping my speed kind of but then out of fucking nowhere, a car comes out behind me and is up my ass. So I'm like, okay, that's fine. As long as no cars come onto the 80-kilometer road intersection I'm heading towards, it's fine because I can just, I don't need to stop for this guy. I can just roll out and keep going. But then, two fucking, I'm assuming teenagers come ripping down the freeway. Oh no, the 80-kilometer road, really fast, and the timing is now all shot. I got this guy at my ass, and I am just trying to travel at a kind of normal speed, but not too fast because I need to be able to slow enough that I can actually take the corner. But then this guy's behind me, so I need to travel fast enough that he's not going to get my ass. So I'm probably doing about, I reckon, 30 to 40k. But then these dickheads, I don't even know who they are. I'm going to assume they're teenagers, like my bins. I'm going to assume because. One of them is they're traveling at 80 and then they slow down and then it's like they're kind of playing funny buggers with each other. One is kind of flashing the lights and I'm like, oh, God damn it. Now's not the time for your kind of teenage P-plater hijinks. I've got to make this fucking turn. So they go and I swear to God, it was just a split-second Matrix-like moment where I'm like, I'm going to make it. I don't care. I'm not going to slow down. So those two cars fly by and I just turn onto the road, literally as the last car goes past and make it without hitting the brakes. I'm like, excellent. I reckon in my head I've got 3 feathers of the brake before the car's fucked. I haven't had to use it yet.
Though. Absolutely.
Yeah, goose feathers. So then I'm winding up the 80-kilometer road and that's going fine. That's no problem. It's pretty much a straight road. But then as you get up to the entrance to the freeway, it starts to kind of gets into a 60k zone. Then it gets a bit chicaney and then you go around a roundabout before you enter the freeway. And so I'm like, okay.
And if I know where you're talking about, that it's also a notorious speed trap there, right?
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. But because the thing is I don't have to travel like hell for leather. In fact, it's probably better for me to start at a lower speed and then gradually build until I get to the freeway. Because
absolutely. Because you can't brake.
I can't brake. But at some stage, Will, when I get to the chicanes and the windy bits, I'm going to have to fucking brake because I just can't take those corners at, even if I'm traveling, I think I was doing like 60 at the time or 50 or 60. So I'm like, oh, but I've got a first and second gear in this automatic car. I'm just going to fucking drop into the first gear as I go up this like chicane. So I do that.
Have you ever done that before?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
Good. All right.
Yeah. So that's fine. So drop into the first gear and the car, it just kind of lurches. But I'm okay. I've got some. I'm still traveling, and I haven't had the brakes, and I've got some control. Get through the chicanes, hit the freeway, and then I'm just fucking like, mate, let's open her up. Let's just fucking let her rip. Open her up. Give her some stick. So I fucking hit the accelerator, and it was glorious. Like it was so great. Like the car just
You're
was
like brakes where we're going. We don't need.
Yeah, we don't need brakes. So I'm flying along that stretch of freeway, and then I'm getting to the Ballina exit, which, as you know, you come off that one. It's that little roundabout before you get to that other, whatever that road is. And so, again, it's a 60-kilometer exit. I'm going from 110, and it's a busy night. A lot of people heading south on the freeway. But I'm flying, mate. I'm like, no one can stop me. No one can stop me.
Especially not myself.
Yeah, except the motherfucking cop car that pulled in front of me. Because I didn't see to exit the freeway. So I'm like, God damn it. So the cop car pulls in front, like I'd say like 30 meters ahead of the exit.
Yeah.
Because my plan was like, I'm just not going to stop, mate. I'm just not going to stop.
Nothing can stop you now.
Nothing can stop me. So again, I down gear it into second gear to take the exit so I don't have to hit the brakes. So that slows me from 110 to about 80. I'm still traveling too fast. Yeah. Then I drop down again to first. The car really doesn't like that. Like, ooh, But I'm now sort of holding steady about a 15-meter distance between me and the rear bumper of the cop car. Do you see the way my camera took the focus away from my face there?
Also, just the tension in the police car.
Yeah, I know. There's a lot at stake. There is a lot at stake. And so the police car, I'm like, well, I said, I guess I've got a feather in me because when we get to the roundabout, they're going to wait. Yeah. And I'm going to have to wait behind them. And then it should be fine. I can accelerate the rest of the way. I don't know if the police car had issues with their brake calipers, but these guys did not stop. They literally drove through the roundabout. I think they even mounted the middle of the roundabout without stopping. Not with the lights on or anything, just because. I guess because they're cops, man. And they can do whatever they want.
Yeah, except protect people.
Yeah. So that gives me the green light. Now, in football parlance, I've got someone give me the perfect shepherd, running a block, running a screen, whatever you like.
Yeah.
So now
in the slipstream.
I'm in the slipstream.
You're like one of those Tour de France riders. Like there's somebody up the front doing all the hard work, just clearing it out for you.
It was brilliant. So, and the cops also were speeding. So it was great because I could get up to 80 and they're still they're still ahead of me because they were probably doing 85, 90 or something like that. Then I get to, so I'm 2 blocks away from the destination and I'm like, brilliant, almost done it. 2 roundabouts to navigate.
This has got some real Ferris Bueller's Day Off, final scene vibes about it, this chase.
So the cops, they continue on. They don't take the same corner I do. I make that corner without having to brake just because I just timed it perfectly. It was like I was in the zone by this stage. It's just in the zone. Then I've got one last roundabout to take a right-hander on, and then I'm there. A fucking car comes out of nowhere, stops. I've got no choice. Hit the brakes. Like the fucking car just is shuddering like it's having like a fit. I finally get into the roundabout. I'm like, and then there's only like a street to go. And I'm like, you motherfucker. Like, come on, car. You can get there. No. Had to fucking put it in neutral and then just like push the rest of the way just to get it to the edge of the street. And then I waited, got the car into the spot. But I did it. Drove without brakes for 11 kilometers.
Have you told your family this story?
Yeah, I told Jem.
Yeah. She fine with this?
Well, I think it was a calculated risk.
Was it? Was it? I mean,
I'm not saying it's a good calculation.
it's a nice story because you're here to tell it, but
Yeah,
it does seem very risky.
I
Like,
guess
what
so.
what if the cops had like noticed that you were driving erratically and pulled you over?
I wasn't
Well,
driving erratic. I wasn't driving erratically.
but as in
though.
like they noticed something and
Right.
you couldn't slow down enough or whatever, and they pulled
Yeah,
you
yeah.
over. And
Well-
technically, you go on a little chase first because you couldn't stop because of the brakes.
But I think that it wasn't that I couldn't stop. It's just that I didn't want to stop. Like
That's
if an
true.
incident happened, I could stop. It wasn't
Yeah,
like
in
I was
case of
driving without
emergency,
brakes.
There was still brakes.
But it made me
The
think
brakes were
that
just going to mean that your car then had to have a 20-minute break.
I've been driving like a moron for all these years with using my brakes like an idiot, like a chump, when I could have been
Don't even
driving
need
all
them.
this time, saving a fortune on brake pads.
Fred Flintstone just used his feet. I mean, come on.
Let's change topics a little bit to talk about a TOFOP favorite.
Good
The
story,
Rock.
though. I mean, I'm glad you did it for the story. That's
Oh yeah. Well, the part of me
quality.
was thinking, even if this goes wrong, we're recording TOFOP tomorrow. I'm going to have something to say about it.
Yeah, no, I was on the edge of my seat, literally.
I've been made it through the second season of Young Rock, and as we discussed previously when talking about the Young Rock, this is the Rock testing the waters for a presidential bid. That's the plot line that strings all these kind of So if you can think about it like an episode of Family Guy, every episode starts with the Rock in the future, 2032, doing his presidential campaign, and the guy interviewing him, he'll say like, hey, the waiter hasn't brought our bread rolls. You don't mind waiting? And the Rock's like, no, I don't mind waiting. Because when I was 7 years old, and then they will cut to like a lesson he learned as a 7-year-old or whatever like that.
Okay.
It's a fine, serviceable sitcom. If you're into wrestling, especially wrestling from the 80s, it's pretty cool because there's a lot of kind of nods and, actors playing famous wrestlers from the 80s. So it's all fun. But my belief is the Rock, he's testing the waters for a real presidential run. And also, as you discussed last time, he's creating his own mythology. Like he's turning himself into something even more famous and more mythological than he already is by committing all these stories to public record.
It's what in the future they will call a rockumentary.
A rockumentary. So he, I think actually they even make that joke in the show. They really leave no pun unturned.
Pun
no
unturned.
rock
I
unturned.
should get on board with this.
Yeah, I think you would quite like it. I think it's it treads this really fine line between, like, if it wasn't The Rock, you'd be like, this fucking dude, like, it's almost like a cult leader. Like he's so earnest in his belief about life lessons and hard work and humbleness and blah, blah, blah. And, these are the things that, are the ABCs of me and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, if you weren't just the most charismatic, charming, successful dude on the planet, you'd be like, fuck you. Like, I resent this.
Yeah,
I resent this and I resent the
luckily,
show.
He is. So it's fine. It works perfectly for him.
Spoiler alert, at the end of the second season, he loses the election to become president. And I'm like, oh, that's interesting. But I reckon he is wargaming it. Like he is wargaming. Okay, so let's run a scenario in which I don't win. Let's see what the reaction is. Let's see what people respond to. Let's see what they're probably doing heaps of market research. So it got me thinking about The Rock. And then, we had that discussion about, does he even operate his social media? And he's so media savvy. There is a line that The Rock has been using for the last 2 years in relation to his upcoming DC movie, Black Adam. Now, for someone who is so media savvy and really has a handle on PR and self-promotion, it is one of the clunkiest lines that I've ever heard anyone use, yet he persists with it. And I want your input because you're a Rock fan. You also know a bit about marketing and advertising and slogans. So are you familiar with the line he's been using about Black Adam? So every time he's promoted this upcoming Black Adam film, he says something about the DC universe. Do you know what I'm talking about?
No, I don't know.
Okay. So about 2 years ago, and I've been trying to track this online. So about 2 years ago, DC did one of their upfronts or whatever, and he was publicizing it. And he said, the hierarchy of power in the DC universe is about to change. And since that time, I reckon every post about Black Adam, if not other things related to DC, The Rock has said the hierarchy, it's either the hierarchy of power is about to change or the hierarchy of power in the DC universe is changing, right? It is the clunkiest fucking tagline. Like, it's terrible. It doesn't roll off the tongue. You sort of have to think and break it down for a bit. Then you start wondering, well, what is the hierarchy of power? But obviously this is a dude who market researches fucking everything, right? You think that he and his $7 guys would be like, we want to bring out Black Adam to be the biggest DC film of all time, or what's something that we can hang our hat on? What is the motto of this film? Yeah. He even posted something a couple of days ago where it was a photo of him with the Black Adam script, and he's sitting at the steps of this, like, of this throne room set, and there's the big Black Adam throne. And The Rock wrote this really earnest post about today was a big day. I sat in Black Adam's throne for the first time, and we started shooting this film, whenever 2 years ago. I promised myself that I would not sit in that throne until I believed I had delivered upon, the promise of this character. As an actor, I'm like, that's fucking annoying. Like, you're an actor. Like, they may need to shoot the throne scene early. Just sit in the fucking chair. It's fine. You've earned it. Like it says in the script, you earned it. Like, it's not, you don't have to earn the right to sit in the chair. Like,
also, it's not a thing.
Not a thing.
The bigger point for me is that it's a thing.
It's not a real throne.
You probably just made up yourself. It isn't. You're not Black Adam. I need to point out there is no Black Adam.
There was no Black Adam. Yeah. Made up character. So what do you reckon? Because he's been so persistent. Like, I even went online and found out that I'm not the only one who's noticed this. Like, it's become a meme. The hierarchy of power in the DC universe is about to change. A, do you think it's a good slogan? B, do you think, why do you think that they are pushing this so hard? Is there something beyond just selling Black Adam, or is there something else underneath this? Because watching the young Rock and seeing these posts, these earnest posts, like, he clearly has this, not obsession, but he's a winner and he likes to dominate and he likes to be the best and, go big or go home. But it's such a terrible, clunky slogan. I can't but think there is something else going on.
Okay, so look, here's what I will say. Get the not fun bit out of the way first, and then we can get to the fun of this, which would be that this, in most of these situations, if something is terrible, like, trust that there's someone who's fucked it up rather than like there's some grand conspiracy. So the hierarchy of power is about to change.
The hierarchy of power in the DC universe.
Yes.
All right, sorry, yeah.
So the hierarchy of power is about to change. If I told you that was the slogan, that's snappy. You're right. Oh, what does that mean? Like, Adam's like a king. There's maybe it's that, but maybe it's about the idea that, like, move over Superman and move over Batman, like, the real big hero in the universe, and the fact that The Rock is like, not what, like a white guy called Chris, like, playing one of these characters, like, it's a statement about that. It's like cashing in on the, that kind of Marvel Wakanda, vibe as well. Like, and then I think some marketing executive has gone, yeah, but can we put in the DC universe, please? And they've fucked the whole thing up, right?
Yeah.
Like,
hierarchy of power is about to change. You're right.
Like, it's not
that
like
rolls
if
off the tongue much easier.
slogan was, like, if who's someone who has like a
may the force be with you. May the force of the Star Wars universe be with you.
Extended universe be with you.
You're right. It's the corporate branding, because you're right. That's exactly what the problem is. They have mentioned the corporation that does not exist in the story world. Uh-huh. Like, if it was just going to be a snappy, evocative title, it would exist purely within the world of Black Adam. The DC universe,
like, Batman's never having a conversation with Superman going, man, this is an interesting DC universe that we all live in.
The Neil deGrasse Tyson of the DC universe is like, the DC universe is constantly expanding.
So I think that's it. I mean, I think that's the most boring answer. But now let's just take of the DC universe out of it. Okay. The hierarchy. What is the slogan?
The hierarchy of power is about to change.
The hierarchy of power is about to change. It's still clunky. Like, it's still not the snappiest.
Hierarchy is just not a good word for what they're trying to do.
I mean, hierarchy implies. I think hierarchy is one of those like words that feels like it has a regal connotation, or like that sort
Hierarchy.
of.
Yeah.
But also, I wonder if it is about that idea of they're trying to launch, like Batman and Superman and all those sort of things haven't quite worked out for them in the way that, perhaps Spider-Man and movies like that are, doing. So maybe this is their thing of going, no, 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 no. Like, we've got a new big star, and this is not like a little, DC movie. This is like a Batman movie, or this is like a Superman movie. This is like a Justice League movie. This is, how big this movie is going to be. But to take it to where I think you were taking it, which is this a secret message that the hierarchy of power in our society needs to change? Then sure, I'm on board. Absolutely. The QAnon thing, of course, is the storm. The storm is gathering or the storm is coming. Do you know this?
No.
So basically, anytime you hear a politician, there was a transphobic Australian politician that dominated our election, or at least discussion around this particular candidate. I know her name, but I'm not going to actually even say it because she doesn't deserve the publicity. But when she was...
I'm flattered that you think mentioning her on TOFOP will suddenly make it national news.
Well, because I think this is the world she's going to live in now, not the TOFOP
Right.
world, but the online podcast world, because there is a good living to be made as a grifter. And if you are seen as one of those QAnon people, like, I mean, look at Marjorie, whatever her name is, Thompson. Is that what her name is in America? Green. Sorry, yeah. Marjorie Taylor Greene. Is that her name?
Yeah. Yeah,
So-
Jonathan Taylor Thomas's mother.
Yeah, that's right. I believe. And Tom Green's mum as well.
Yeah.
Jonathan Taylor Thomas and Tom Green's mum, Marjorie Taylor Greene. And she, like, I mean, there is an audience there that you can tap into. And so the code word is the storm, or the gathering of the storm, or the storm is coming. So Trump used to tweet about the storm, and this particular politician tweeted about the storm. And so
hang on, are you saying that Charlie Cameron of the Brisbane Lions
when every time
is part of QAnon?
Hashtag Go Storm, he's actually sending out secret messages to his QAnon followers. That's some 2 podcast streams bleeding into each other. But you can check out our other podcast, 2 Guys, 1 Cup, an AFL adjacent podcast, where we do things like read the Twitter feed of Charles Cameron from the Brisbane Lions. It is exclusive to the Listener app. But okay, so let's just say that they're the Marvel universe of politics, right? That Trump side. If Trump's coming back and The Rock is going to go into the American presidential election, that WrestleMania that he's about to sign up for, then do they need something that is their version of gathering the storm, or the storm is coming? Like, so maybe the hierarchy of power needs to change. Is their effort to tap into that?
Yeah, I think it's just like you say, maybe it's the simplest solution is they're just wanting to rebrand this franchise, and they want to do it with a bang. And they're like, well, we need to upset the apple cart. And everyone knows the big DC characters, Wonder Woman, Batman, and the other guy. Everyone knows. Everyone knows.
The one who keeps
Superman.
The one who keeps getting in fights in Hawaii. That one.
Yeah, that one. Don't you reckon? Isn't that like?
Oh my God.
Isn't that a real fucking issue for the
What
marketing
is
team at Warner Brothers?
happening with that?
Oh
I
my
can't-
God!
Like, every day I was like, can't believe they're still writing about this story about Ezra Miller getting arrested in Hawaii. And I'm like, oh no, it's a different story.
I believe they throw chairs every time. Like, I read the same 2 articles. It's like, oh, must be the same article. No, he's thrown a chair. Sorry, they have thrown a chair twice in their time as a. What is he doing? Like, is this?
Well,
So I keep fucking this up.
Okay. I mean, I know your intentions are right. They hate chairs, and you know what? They won't stand for it. Ironically, they do have to stand for it because they don't have chairs anymore.
But I was thinking about what the Warner Brothers marketing team do, because they've obviously spent a lot of money on, this new Flash film. They've got Michael Keaton back as Batman. So they're, this is part of the hierarchy of power in the DC universe changing.
Yeah.
Like, they want to, who knows? They're going to alter timelines and all that kind of shit. Hey, forget the Zack Snyder universe. We're starting again. Doesn't help when your star is on more than one occasion throwing a chair at someone.
I mean, again, he hates chairs. Just don't take him to places where there's chairs. That's the problem.
Always standing. Always standing.
I will say, I mean, it looks like they are troubled, and it feels like in that situation you would hope that somebody would step in and go,
I mean,
hey.
it's not a good thing, but I never liked Ezra Miller. Just was one of as an actor, just never appealed to me. Was always shocked that he kept getting all these opportunities because I just didn't think they were particularly charming or funny or whatever.
Did you think you were better than Ezra? Come on.
I just didn't understand playing a superhero, but then again, I guess this is more a Zack Snyder thing. Zack Snyder they wanted a Peter Parker type Barry Allen. I never saw Barry Allen as being like this kind of quippy, smart ass kid, but that's the direction they went in.
Yeah, I think with Ezra Miller too. I didn't mind that take on Flash. I thought it was fun. It worked in those movies. It was actually one of the more fun bits of those movies for me. But I think the problem they had, both they being the people who made the movie and also Ezra, is that there was already a really good version of the Flash on TV. That TV show, The Flash, that version of the Flash, I think people are like, yeah, this is a cool version of the Flash. He's kind of a bit dorky and nerdy, but he's also quite competent and good at being the Flash.
And doesn't throw chairs at anyone.
It does not throw chairs.
In their real life. Let's get to the mailbag before we go. And before we do the mailbag, let's just plug, Will mentioned earlier, our Patreon, patreon.com/TOFOP. We're about to record a bonus episode. Every fortnight you get a bonus episode of TOFOP on the Patreon. And you also get full videos every week, plus a lot of other great bonus content. Will also mentioned we do another podcast, Two Guys, One Cup, which is exclusive to the listener app. So if you would like to support us, but you can't shell out money for the Patreon, if you sign up to Listener and it's free and download a few other episodes, our overlords at Listener go, wow, you guys are popular. We'll continue to pay you to do this job. So that's the way you can support us. And you can also go to tofop.com to check out our entire back catalogue of all our podcasts. We have another one called FOFOP. Will, who's on this week?
Justin Hamilton, if I get it recorded this afternoon.
Just for a change?
Meant to do it this morning, and then anyway, people don't need to know the reasons why I couldn't do it this morning, but I am going to try to do it this evening, so hopefully there'll be a new episode with Justin Hamilton.
This is from Gareth. The subject is existential fun fact. Morning, TOFOP. Well, we'll be the judge of that.
I'm going to judge it and say, no, it's not morning. It's
according to when this was sent, it was 2:57 p.m.
Yeah.
So,
top of the morning
Gareth,
to you then.
I don't know if we can trust anything else Gareth says. He's going to lie about the time he sent it.
Is this the existential fact that he was going with, that 2:30 in the afternoon is actually in the morning?
I came across a bit of information that will have no impact on my life by the time it becomes useful. In the year 2100, the year 2100 won't be a leap year despite being part of the 4-year cycle.
Yes.
Every 100 years, a leap year is skipped.
That's correct.
Except if it's a multiple of 400.
It's not a perfect amount of time.
There is a large dog in my front yard taking a shit.
Okay.
Hey!
You
get out of here. I don't have a dog.
Well, I don't know. Are you kidnapping more dogs? Have you stolen more dogs, Charlie?
No, there is a giant Labrador, black Labrador. I can see him out my office window shitting on my front lawn and just walks off.
Yeah. Well, what did you expect him to do?
I don't know. Just take it with you, mate. That's terrible. Sorry, Gareth. I didn't mean to ruin your point. Okay, so every 100 years, a leap year is skipped.
Well, yes, because the way that we allocate the time that a year takes isn't perfect. So that's what leap years are. We have to have that extra day every now and again to get us back on track. And that doesn't actually, so every year isn't quite perfectly a year. And then every 100 years we have to not have one to even it out again. They've managed to make it work pretty well. If I had been left in charge of doing that, about 100 years in, they'd be like, hey, maybe this solves the whole you think it's morning in the afternoon thing. Because if I was in charge, you'd be like, it's morning. Yeah, it'll be light at 5. I've got this real out of whack. I'm so sorry.
Gareth finishes by saying, Will, if you're interested, Dissect or Dissect are doing a podcast on Bo Burnham's Inside, which I think you may find interesting.
I would find that very interesting.
Has the blowback finished against Bo Burnham from people like, ugh, another white man?
The bowback.
The blowback is another white guy thinks he's revolutionized comedy.
I think it wasn't much of a blowback, to be honest.
Okay.
I feel like everybody just thought it was so good that eventually a few people had to reluctantly try to find some problem with it. And I don't even think their heart was in it, to be honest.
Kate, subject line is 5 question mark. So 5 FIVE, 5 number, 5 numeral 5 IVE. What are they called? A prescient quote from Adam Spencer's Book of Numbers, published in 2000. 5 members is the preferred number of all boy harmony groups. Consider the Backstreet Boys, Boyzone, NSYNC, 5, Take That, New Kids on the Block, etc. The allocation of talent across the 5 members is traditionally 2 fantastic breakdancers, 1 guy who looks great in slacks, 1 moody, brooding loner, that's Jay, complete with nose ring or goatee beard, and 1 who can actually sing. Kate wants to know which of those archetypes we would be. I'm definitely not the moody, broody one.
Okay, run us through them one by one.
2 fantastic breakdancers. I think that rules us out. A guy who looks good in slacks.
Maybe you could be a guy.
I think I look okay in slacks.
I don't wear slacks.
I reckon you could be moody, brooding loner. You're a loner, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely,
but you're not moody and brooding. Well, no, maybe to people you don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. I could definitely
you're the J. you're the J of TOFOP.
Yeah, is WJ okay?
You just got to work on your raps. Yeah. All right, one last bit of mail, and then we'll say adios, arrivederci.
So long, farewell, auf Wiedersehen.
Sayonara. This is from Justin. TOFOP. I have become what I used to laugh at. I live in a Bayside council in Melbourne, very close to where Charlie grew up, and they're having a bin revolution. The general waste bin pickup schedule is being changed so that it only gets picked up every 2 weeks. Right. And they're changing the compost and green waste bin to every week. I would love to get your opinions on this situation. That's standard where we live now.
Absolutely 100% how my bins have worked for the last 2.5 years of my life.
Yeah, and I think that's all right. I have found that I don't need to put my regular general waste bin out all the time, and because where we live, it is always wet, and then bouts of sunshine, which makes your garden grow. I'm constantly filling my green bin, so it's actually worked out pretty well.
Yeah, well, I don't have a green bin because I live like proper rural.
Too far.
So basically, any like green waste goes. Well, I have 2 compost, like outdoor compost bins, and so I use those. Oh, how's this? So haven't been up there for a while, and I grew pumpkins accidentally. So in the compost,
accidentally,
yeah. So in the compost, basically, it gets just a little bit leaked out the bottom, and like there'd been some pumpkin seeds in there because of all the cool compost. Like it was perfect environment for so literally down where the compost bin is, there was just
pumpkin patch,
a whole bunch of pumpkins.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'll take one off your hands if you want to give it to me. Okay, my biggest issue arises because the last couple of years they encouraged those of us that didn't create as much waste to downsize to a smaller bin, like an 80 litre. Now they're having the pickups. So we are left with a very small bin space per week. Upon investigation of this new bin regime, I saw that you can upgrade your bin size for no extra cost if you have a chronic condition. So you'd qualify.
Yep.
I have a chronic condition, which has no effect on my waste production, but they don't need to know that. My wife says I shouldn't exploit the system, but I say that if I can get a peace of mind that our nappies are not going to overflow in the street, then I will exploit away.
Absolutely.
As a father who's dealt with nappies and some kind of chronic condition, what would you do? Mate. You're not exploiting the system. You pay your tax. You pay your council rates.
You're entitled to it. And you're not saying, hey, I'm having a whole bunch of parties at my house and there's just constantly alcohol bottles and stuff and I need to put in the bin or something. Or you're just I just love to buy old tires and then chuck them out or something.
Chuck them out. I just buy them. I go to the greengrocer that packages everything separately and wraps it in plastic and I just buy all that fruit. Just throw all that plastic out.
Yeah. So I think this is totally appropriate. This is perfectly fine. But I do I think in general, encouraging us to go smaller is a good thing. I don't think you're a bad person if you need more. I just think in a general sense, the size of the bin does give us
Encourages you to
some sort
waste
of,
more.
well, it just gives us a signal of how much waste is appropriate. And I
Yeah,
feel like
100%.
in a general sense, we all absolutely, and I know, for all the fucking times I talk about, impact on the environment, like I still wish I could just cut down on the wastage that I have.
Do you? I miss the days of the incinerator. Like
I'd
growing
love to
up in the
burn shit.
suburbs of Melbourne,
Mate,
my dad fucking would incinerate everything. Like we would burn everything in the house, just gone.
I mean,
Evidence,
I went
whatever you
through a
want.
period of time, like during the winter last year, where like there was all this like shit from the storms and stuff that was everywhere, and like I was like, I'm gonna burn it. So I like put a bonfire together, and then that fire was like the eternal flame. Like for 2 months, I would constantly just like find something else to chuck on that fucking bonfire.
It's so
And
great.
I loved it. And I was here in the city the other night, and so I haven't been here for ages. And there is like the garden just is an absolute fucking mess. There is like, palm fronds and all these sort of things. And yeah, in the city where you've got the little green bin, like it would literally take me 6 months Shawshank style to just like cut everything down to like get it off the property. And all I was thinking was, could I empty the pool and burn this shit? Like, would that be against the law because I'd empty the pool. So like I empty out the entire pool and then I just like put everything in and I start a fire. So it's totally safe. Would that be that it would not be allowed?
No, that would not be allowed. But all I encourage you to do is if you do it, please film it. So we've got extra content for the Patreon. Patreon.com/TOFOP. Okay, that is TOFOP for this week. Thank you again for listening. Go to TOFOP.com to check out more from us. But for now, I'm Charlie Clausen.
I'm Will Anderson.
How long? Not long. Everyone relax.
This podcast is a TOFOP production.
Head to tofop.com for more.
Cool things for cool people.